What happened during the banking crisis of 2010, because Nigeria was not so much within the global economy, if I have to say that, it didn't impact so negatively on us. But the lessons that we learned from that, because somehow we also had our own big take, just because of our own carelessness with respect to non-performing loans and all that. Not that it was so much tied to the global economy, but because of our huge volume of non-performing loans. So we also had our own negative impact. But what I can say is that as a country, it's just like now that everybody is celebrating increased foreign reserve. I think for me that doesn't make sense, because the first question, you should ask yourself, what forms the core of the foreign reserve? If you are borrowing so badly, or making huge external exposures, and then all of a sudden you think you have huge reserve, it doesn't make sense. What should form your core foreign reserve really should be foreign direct investment by way of portfolio investment, and then secondly, your export proceeds. In fact, export proceeds should be at the front. But the point is, of these two, we really don't have it. We really don't have it. And even the third one, which is our private sector contribution to the GDP, is so bad. Look at other African countries. So what are we really celebrating? We are celebrating what would even hurt us at the end of the day. This celebration is purely for political reasons, because there's no cost to celebrate.
So what should we be doing differently?
Yeah, what we should be doing differently is to think back home. What is it that we have that we can promote so that we can export? And that's why interest rate comes into play. Because no matter how you want to think back home, and people are borrowing money at double-digit interest rate, you are moving nowhere. It's just like starting the engine and then you are not making any movement. So it doesn't make sense. So we must think back home and then begin to tell ourselves what really is our problem. And trust me, the problem is interest rate. No matter how anybody wants to argue it, I have been on this stage for 6 years plus. I have seen it through. Once we get that resolved, because Nigerians are willing to work. Nigerians are very wise entrepreneurs. Nigerians are very intelligent. Nigerians can do a lot. Look at what all the exploits being done globally. Basically, at least, if my statistics is right, 10% of it are Nigerians. So we need to encourage them. And if these guys were in the country, they won't make one step forward. Look at our universities. Are they doing research? Yes, no money. So these are things that the private sector would even encourage, but the private sector themselves are handicapped.